Good morning. Sorry I didn't get a video out last week. I was down in South Carolina backpacking for a whole week. But I'm back. I want to show you what I had done while I was backpacking. There it is. That is a 5.2 liter 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine out of one of these Isuzu NPR box trucks. This is the truck. Let's open it up and I'll show you what we just had done here. There she is. I found this beauty down in Birmingham, Alabama. And we just got her back yesterday. And she purrs like a kitten. This engine had 126,000 miles on it. The one I removed had about 170, so we made a little upgrade. So there's a long story behind this. I'll try to tell it real quick. Last October, my son was driving to Columbus for the final farmers market of the season. He called me halfway there. I was still in bed because it was the first Saturday of the entire summer and fall that I actually was able to sleep in. So he wakes me up. The truck's dead along the highway. So I hop in my pickup. My wife hops in another box truck because we're gonna have to offload everything from this truck onto another box truck so he can continue on to Columbus to get to this farmer's market. And then the pickup truck with the chain, I was gonna tow my wife home and my son would continue on to Columbus with a replacement box truck. So as we're pulling it home, little did I know that when we were pulling this truck into a parking lot to offload it, the chain had wrapped around the wheel one revolution and it started pulling on the brake lines. It broke off the brake line, thus creating some sort of friction on the brake pads and the rotor. My wife starts honking halfway home. I look back, the truck's smoking, it's on fire. We thought the truck was gonna go up in flames. So we pull over along the edge of the highway. There's no water to be found. I quickly go through the fire extinguisher, and I wanna throw a picture up real quick of my wife took of me trying to put this fire out with a fire extinguisher. Notice the size of this fire extinguisher. So yes, make sure you have a properly sized fire extinguisher. That little thing didn't stand a chance against that massive fire. So obviously the tire exploded, the fire truck came, finally put it out. I was able to save the truck, obviously. It ruined the wheel bearings, the hub, the rotor, the brake pads, the brake lines. After all of that and labor, we're 2,500 bucks in just to be able to roll it down the road. So 2,500 bucks plus a $6,000 engine and an additional $2,000 to remove the old engine and put the new one in. So we are currently at $10,500 in the hole with this truck. So you might be thinking to yourself, Jason, why didn't you just buy a new truck, keep that for spare parts? Since I got 5 of these things, I'm probably gonna need parts in the future, right? These are all 2000, well, this is a 2005, the other 4 2006s. I thought about doing that because I did have a lot of trouble finding this particular engine. There's not a lot of them around the United States. There's a couple good dealers in Florida and South Carolina that usually have these on hand, but they were currently out. Luckily, I found one in Birmingham and got it shipped up here. Fortunately, everything worked. There's a 45-day warranty on that engine, and it was worth doing it. So even though I'm in at $10,500 right now, I paid $15,000 for these trucks over a decade ago, and believe it or not, they are worth every bit of that, if not more. These Isuzu NPRs have appreciated. They are $80,000 new now in 2024. And if I was to go out and replace this with maybe a 2012, 2015, you know, just to upgrade them a little bit, which is what I need to do slowly here over the next few years, we're looking at minimum $25,000, if not 30. So rather than buying an upgraded truck for $25,000 or $30,000, I decided to bite the bullet and spend the $10,000 to get that thing up and running. And now she is good to go for another produce season. And on days like this, it feels like it's just around the corner, you know? It's gonna be in the 40s today. Shoot, I bet it might even hit 50. But we have a clear blue sky, it's calm. You know, it's so calm out, I should be working on plastic today. I got 2 greenhouses that I have to work on changing out the plastic, but I like to do it when it's a little bit warmer and there's no snow laying around. You can see we still have some snow melting from the 5 inches we got last week. But today, I'm gonna be working on some more greenhouse stuff. I'll give you a peek in here to let you see the tomatoes. They're really starting to grow. There they are. Yeah, they're looking nice. 7 or 8 inches tall, I think. Yeah, real happy with how they look. And the thrips are pretty much under control. I just saw one today for the first time in a week, so I might have to give them another little spray. And the reason I have these spread out only 3 wide now is because I want to give them more room to spread their wings and not be crammed in there too tight. Plus, we're going to be putting 2-foot bamboo stakes into every cube. And the reason we do that is because when these plants get about 3 or 4 inches taller, they're going to want to start falling over. They're not quite as stout as a field tomato is, a garden tomato is, grown in the late spring, early summer. These are a lot more tender and sensitive, and if they get wet or bumped, when they start getting 10 inches tall, they can fall over. And plus, when we move them from in here to the main greenhouse that I'm going to show you here in a little bit, even a slight breeze can knock them over. So we're going to put a bamboo stake and a clip on every individual plant. And that's what we're going to be working on later in the week. But today, planting number 2 is right here. I have all the cubes watered and fertilized. We got a variety here, and then one of our favorite varieties over there is a lot more trays. So I showed this process in another video already, so I'm not going to talk about it too much today. Right now I want to show you another thing we're going to be working on here this afternoon after I get those tomato plants done. Coming down here to greenhouse number 1. We call this our tall house because she's tall, 18 feet. Unlike these other ones that are only about 11. Got a lot of work to do in here. Got to get the boiler all full of water and ready to go, and the little boiler pump, I got to tighten all that up because I drain all the water and flush all the water out, all these lines. Got to scrub up all these tanks, get them put back into position, fill the water heater up, make sure the irrigation pump's working. So yep, a lot of work. But today, first on the list is to get all these buckets filled with perlite. 615 plants in here, so 307, 308 buckets, something like that. Alrighty, let's actually go get some work done. Something else I just recently changed in here in the transplant house, the starter house, is I removed the plastic covers off of the louvers and the exhaust fan back here. Because when it gets sunny like this, it gets up to 100 degrees in here in a matter of hours. So I was actually down in South Carolina on my backpacking trip, and I have a sensophone. I don't know if I ever talked about my sensophone. This is just a greenhouse monitoring system. So this is a little Verizon box, kind of just like an extra cell phone line, dedicated for this sensophone. I programmed the temperature limits I want in here, and I also programmed the phone numbers I wanted to call if there's a low temp alert or a high temp alert. And that thing called me in the middle of the week on my 130-mile backpacking trip and said, it's 100 degrees in here. So I had to call home and have my wife come and open the door and let some heat out, let some cool air in. But it still was hot in here in the 90s. So now that I got these covers removed, see they kind of open. There's a little motor here that'll open the louvers. At the same time, the exhaust fan will turn on and it'll bring fresh air through the greenhouse, bring fresh air in and exhaust the hot air. And it's controlled by this little thermostat here. And I have a delay timer on here. The reason that's on there is because if that exhaust fan fires up at the exact same time as the louvers are trying to open up, sometimes those haven't had a chance to fully open yet. So what I've had happen in the past before I put one of those delay timers on there is that exhaust fan's running full bore back there while the louvers are still trying to open up. and then it creates a suction in here and the louvers actually can't open. So we have an exhaust fan that's running, doing nothing except creating more suction and pressure on these louvers, not allowing them to open. So what this little delay timer does on here is create, I think I have it set for 10 seconds. So the louvers will begin opening first, and for 10 seconds, it allows them to open before the exhaust fan turns on. So the louvers will be fully opened, and then you'll hear another click, then the exhaust fan will start running. That way it ensures that those are fully open and not gonna be in the middle of trying to open while that is creating a draw of air. So yeah, that works out great. I installed that on almost every greenhouse that we have, and I've never had any issues since. All right, it's time to do some transplanting. All right, I got 3 varieties here that I'm transplanting today. Geronimo, Torero, and Ondero. Let's do, we're gonna make this one Ondero. This one over here is gonna be Torero. Torero is also including these 4. It's 12 and 12. And then the bulk of them are gonna be Geronimo. Go ahead and set these out. And I just saw a thrip. I haven't sprayed these little guys yet, so any thrips that are kind of coming to life right now are going to get on these little ones. They haven't been sprayed yet, so nothing on there to kill them. And then that final tray is half and half. And you can see I put a little thermostat, a thermometer in there to kind of monitor the temperature. It's 70. The cubes are 76 right now. It's a good temperature. They usually get up to 80 by the end of the day. At night, I've seen them drop down to 50, 52. Way too cold for tomatoes. Like I've said in prior videos, you don't want tomatoes to get below 60. Actually, 62 is best because the plant can't take up phosphorus below 60 degrees. And a phosphorus deficiency shows itself as purpling on the plant leaves, especially the undersides of the leaves. You'll start seeing purple. So we definitely want to try to keep those plants above 60, and without radiant floor heat in here, sometimes that's hard to do, especially on a cold, windy night in the teens. When that happens, I'm pretty happy with 50 degrees. Better than 40. All right, I'm going to show you how the louvers and exhaust fan works in here with this thermostat and delay timer. So I got it set at 90 right now. Normally it's like I set it about 86. Oh, there we go. It just clicked it. It is 86 in here. I was thinking it felt pretty hot. So see how they're opening? That one popped right open. This one is still working. There we go. See these little motors? They open up the louvers. So they're ready to go. And now, in a few seconds, the exhaust fan is going to turn on. There it goes. Yeah, I know. It sounds like the bearings are going out on it. That fan's probably 30 years old. Ah, I can feel that fresh, cool, non-humid air. Getting some air moving on these plants, that's good for them. Helps toughen them up a little bit. Just break off some of these slabs, and I see a double right there. Here's a little janky plant that I won't plant. And you hate to, pluck a double, but you have to. You can't have doubles, so we're gonna pull this guy out. It's kind of leaning over. They're getting pretty tall. And here's another one, I won't plant that. I'll just leave him there, but I'll be throwing him out because he's too small. We want to get the best of the best right here. Really simple job. Kind of a satisfying job, tearing these cubes off. It's kind of fun. There's the air pruned roots. The GoPro is terrible at focusing up close, so you probably can't see that, but there's roots coming out the bottom of that cube, but they stopped. When they came out the bottom and hit the air, they stopped and then start shooting around inside the cube to fill the cube up, and that's what you want. We don't want these roots to go growing out the bottom, sprawling all over the place. And you always have a few duds that are blanks. We'll just throw those away. Can't really reuse this stuff. I mean, I guess you could. I've reused an entire slab before that I wetted down and didn't plant, but once you tear these little cubes, yeah, it's not worth trying to save these. Yeah, they're getting a little long. You can see how they're kind of leaning and flopping over. They'll straighten up once they get used to their new home and spread their wings a little bit and shoot the roots down a little bit. They'll straighten themselves right up and get stout and strong. And I just saw my cat walk in here. She loves the warmth of the greenhouse. She'll probably lounge in here, but she knows she has to be careful because I've shut her in before. Maybe not this cat, but another cat actually dug through the plastic, ripped through the plastic to make a hole big enough to crawl out of the greenhouse. So I'm always cautious about locking my cat in here. And she's just a farm cat. To be honest with you, I can't stand cats. But we've had mice and rat problems before, so we like to have a farm cat around to take care of that problem. And since then, we haven't really had any issues with mice, and definitely not rats. Thank goodness. There's always a few mice in our cooler. They like that warm spot in there, and there's always something left over in there from the fall that I didn't get thrown out. And they'll, like some winter squash or something, or leftover boxes of crackers for samples. If I forget to throw something out, they will find it. Here's another double. Man, you hate to pluck a big, beautiful tomato plant like that. My goodness, you have to. It stinks. It's an 87-cent seed right there I just plucked out. But it will pay dividends later to make sure these are a single plant, not one a double tomato plant. For many reasons. I'm not going to get into it right now. Later in the season, when we're putting them out in the big greenhouse and getting close to harvest, we'll talk more about that, and you will see firsthand through the video why you don't ever want a double plant. Alright, I'm going to keep at this for a little while. Let's speed up the video with a little bit of time lapse and add some music and get this done. All right, another 600 baby plants transplanted into their 4-inch blocks. So we're done in here for a little while. Next up on the agenda for today is to get some perlite, forklift down to the tall greenhouse so we can start filling those Dutch buckets with perlite, because I think we're less than 2 weeks away from transplanting those bigger plants into the tall house, where they will remain for the entirety of their lives. So let's go fire up the forklift and get this stuff moved. ready to start bringing some of this perlite in the greenhouse. If you're wondering what perlite is made of, it is actually just a volcanic product. It's like volcanic glass that's been heated to like, I don't know, 1,000 degrees or more. And it pops like popcorn. So I'll open one of these up here and I'll show you what it looks like. There's a lot of benefits to using perlite as a substrate to grow tomatoes in, and lots of vegetable crops actually. It has a really high surface area. So, you know, here's some I can pick up on the ground right here. Spilled out of the buckets from last year when we were getting rid of it. So, you know, up close it just looks like little white chunks of foam, but under a microscope it's really porous, lots of nooks and crannies and crevices all over it, and it holds a ton of water. So it looks like if you expanded it, it had a big piece of it, it looked like popcorn. You know how popcorn has all those ridges and waves and nooks and crannies. Holds a ton of water, so it's perfect for the roots to grow in and around all the perlite in these buckets. So one of these bags of perlite will fill approximately 10 to 12 buckets. So I'll get them all brought in here and distributed throughout the greenhouse. And then we'll fill all 308 buckets or whatever is in here. And then they will be ready to go for transplanting here in about 2 weeks. These bags of perlite are very lightweight when they're dry. You know, they're probably 30 pounds or something like that, maybe 35. If these were wet, 10 buckets worth, I bet these bags would weigh 300 pounds. It's amazing the amount of water that perlite holds. The only bad thing about working with perlite is it's really dusty. And you'll see this later when I start dumping it. So a lot of times, you know, right now I have the sides dropped because it was hot in here. I came in here, I got my flannel on, I was like sweating. Felt like Florida in here. But I dropped the sides, cooled it off. It's about 70 now, it feels a little better. It was like 90 in here probably. So when I start dumping this perlite, sometimes I'll put a mask on because it's really dusty. And I'll turn on the exhaust fans and vents and try to flush that dust out of here a little bit. But when you don't want to get in your eye, it is terrible to get out of your eye. It can really scratch it up. If you ever had a scratched eye, you know what I'm talking about. It's miserable. Just irritates your nose and your lungs, so it's best not to breathe the stuff if you can avoid it. So that's the only drawback to perlite. Alrighty, we currently got 2 rows done, 3 to go, but I don't really need to have it all done right now. I got some other things I want to work on. So as long as I have it all done here in the next couple of weeks, we'll be in good shape for transplanting day. 2 things I want to run by you guys. First of all, I want to let you know that I really enjoy vlogging our farm life here at Wishwell Farms, and I'm hoping I can keep with it the entire summer and show you guys what life is like here at Wishwell Farms. And if you guys have any kind of topics or content you want to see on this channel, please let me know down in the comments below, and I will do my best to make a video about your suggestions. And speaking of comments, I also want to let you know that I really enjoy reading the comments, and I will always do my best to answer every comment on this channel. Anyway, that is where we are going to wrap up today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you again real soon down on the farm.